The following is produced by 5 Star Productions USA, which is solely responsible for its editorial content.
It creeps up on you. You can't sleep. Panic attacks, anxiety, the most common psychiatric disorder in this country, and it usually goes untreated. Can fighting cancer be as simple as eating right? What's on the menu to help battle this killer? Discover these answers and much more today on Today's Health.
Mary can't sleep at night. Joe is constantly irritable and has put his job in jeopardy. Al's body hurts all the time. 3 different people with 3 different problems. So how could it be that they're all suffering from the same mental disorder? Hello, I'm Kathleen Sullivan, and this is Today's Health. The National Institute of Mental Health estimates that 1 in 6 people in this country suffers from persistent anxiety. Are you one of them? Let's take a closer look.
Awake all night, drowsy all day. Maybe you're constantly on edge.
These are only a few of the symptoms that may accompany a psychiatric disorder known as generalized anxiety disorder, also commonly referred to as persistent anxiety. We all feel anxious at one time or another in our lives, whether it's moving, changing jobs, death, divorce. We all feel tense, irritable, nervous. Well, unfortunately, that's just a part of life. And when we feel anxious, it's usually a condition called transient or situational anxiety, and eventually it will just go away.
Staying away from alcohol, caffeine, and nicotine during anxious times can help keep event-driven tension from becoming a major problem. Regular exercise or stress reduction techniques like yoga can also make coping with stress a little easier.
Persistent anxiety is more than just the common stress of everyday life. Its symptoms are not short-lived. They can persist for 4 to 6 months or longer, and the upset stomach, constant fatigue, and other physical problems are believed to be related to a chemical imbalance in the brain.
Serotonin and norepinephrine are probably the 2 chemicals in the brain that are best identified as being involved in anxiety and other mood changes.
Persistent anxiety is a real challenging disorder to diagnose, but if it is diagnosed properly and people seek help, it could really be treated quite effectively.
A recent Gallup poll found that a full 25% of the U.S. workforce may suffer from anxiety or stress-related illness. That's 1 in 4 people. Maybe it's modern life. Does this look like your typical day?
It starts. It doesn't let up. The relentless onslaught. You can't escape. Every minute of every day, you're on. Everything demands your immediate attention. The clock's ticking. The pressure's building.
We're sorry. Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Don't you wish it were that easy to escape? Unfortunately, the world won't stop, and the buildup of everyday pressures can simply wear you thin. We all have to cope, but as some people's resistance gets eroded, their body responds biologically.
It begins to release too much of a brain chemical called serotonin, which is believed to be related to the development of the side effects of persistent anxiety. That includes physical complaints such as tenseness, upset stomach, bowel problems, headache, fatigue, sleep disturbances, and other physical symptoms that can prompt someone to see a doctor.
In many people, anxiety expresses itself in physical symptoms, and many people with anxiety disorders will go time and again to medical doctors with complaints, headache, stomach aches, back pain. People should be aware that there are treatments available, and if anxiety is overwhelming or persistent, someone should ask for some help and not suffer too much.
The human brain, still unexplored. Where does the key to anxiety lie? Meet the people learning to cope and the pioneers looking for clues when we return on Today's Health.
Let's take a test. Have you been bothered more days than not over the past 6 months by irritability, muscle tension and aches, restlessness, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, or sleep disturbances? If you answered yes 3 times or more, you may want to see a doctor. But first, watch this.
Welcome to the great frontier, the human brain. Technology like positron emission tomography and magnetic resonance imaging now open new windows into this Pandora's box of human behavior.
We've all heard about Mother's Little Helper that gets her through the day, but those pills are from a generation of older medications.
The immediate tranquilizing effect they may have on the patient is actually a side effect of the drug. Unfortunately, another side effect of these medications is the addictive potential. A patient often cannot simply stop using these. They must be tapered off gradually. A different anxiety medication, called buspirone, won't give a patient that immediate tranquilized feeling, but can progressively reduce and relieve the side effects of persistent anxiety. The full effects of the medication may take several weeks to be realized. Data indicates that it is well tolerated and non-habit forming, but in some patients, it could cause mild transient side effects like nausea, dizziness, headaches, or nervousness. As we get to know our brain better, we can develop medications that treat disorders in a more precise manner.
Among psychiatric disorders, anxiety disorders tend to be the most common. Estimates range from roughly anywhere 10 to 20% of Americans at some time in their lifetime may develop a specific anxiety disorder.
Anxiety disorders are considered to be the nation's #1 psychiatric disorder, and it's estimated that 75% of the cases go unrecognized and untreated.
Normally, psychoanalysis and stress reduction techniques cannot correct the biological disorder underlying persistent anxiety. Fortunately, medical research has given us tools to help us better understand the brain.
As our understanding grows, we can more effectively treat psychiatric disorders like persistent anxiety and help millions of people feel like their old selves again.
When you talk about brain scans, neurotransmitters, and advanced medications, sometimes the wow of the technology obscures the purpose. It's not about white coats and chemistry sets. The science is about helping real people. And let's meet some now.
Actually, it all began in college. I was working on campus, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. My throat had closed up. And I panicked, and I ran to the nurse's office, and I was breathing heavy. My heart was palpitating, the whole 9 yards. That was the first time anything like that had ever happened to me. From that day on, I was never the same. What people would consider normal anxiety, to be anxious over something, it would be completely out of control with me. I used to take my pulse 100 times a day. Every little muscle ache, every little pain would have you on edge the entire day. You want to be well, and then what happens, the fear takes over, and the fear becomes a crutch. As a father, I couldn't do anything with my son. I never took him to a baseball game. I never took him to the beach. The medication the doctor put me on made me deal with my anxiety. And that's the way I did it. I would go down to the beach. I would look at it, and I would leave. Then I would walk on the sand, and I would leave. And then finally, one day, like I said, I was going down to the ocean, and finally I actually put the bathing suit on.
He did it. He went to the beach by himself. He got in the water. He swam.
I dove into the water, and everything disappeared. For anyone that's out there that has anxiety disorders that think they can't beat it, they're wrong. Because all those years I didn't live. It's just so incredible to be alive again.
Your best defense against one of the world's most dangerous killers may be on your plate. How do you plan a diet to help prevent cancer? We'll give you an easy-to-follow guide next on Today's Health.
Did you know that 70% of cancers are avoidable and that 30% of those are diet-related? Taking the appropriate steps in your life to prevent cancer is probably the best way to try and avoid it. And what we eat plays a major role in keeping cancer out of our lives.
Are you as confused about your diet as I am? Well, every day we hear information about the things we eat and drink, which makes it hard to decide what is a safe and healthful diet. Well, one good source is the American Cancer Society's guidelines on diet, nutrition, and cancer. And while there's nothing new, no magic, it is good basic information.
These guidelines are the same as 9 other leading health and nutrition organizations. They publish the guidelines to advise us on dietary practices that may reduce the risk of cancer and increase health benefits. One key goal of a healthful diet is to maintain a desirable body weight. Obesity can increase the risk of developing some cancers. Remember to balance calories consumed with energy output. Ordinary activities like walking, climbing stairs, gardening, housework, raking leaves, dancing, or even playing actively with children all help to burn calories. It's important to keep moving
and let 2 key words guide you towards a healthy diet: variety and moderation. Thank you. A varied diet eaten in moderation can offer the best hope of lowering our risk of cancer. Fruits and vegetables make up an important part of our dietary mix.
Foods including beans, whole grain cereals, vegetables, and fruits contain high dietary fiber and can be a good low-calorie substitute for high-calorie fatty foods. The American Cancer Society recommends reducing our total fat intake from the current average of 35 to 40% of our calories down to about 30%. Lean meat can be a very wholesome part of your diet if you make sure the cut you select has a minimum of fat and a maximum of meat. A good rule is to choose beef cuts with loin or round in the name, or pork cuts with loin or leg in the name. And watch out for hidden fats, oils, and other foods like salad dressings, gravies, sauces, and high-fat desserts.
Well, that's a lot of information in a little bit of time. But if you remember anything, remember low fat, high fiber, and the key words variety and moderation. Keep those words in mind, and what you eat may reduce your risk of cancer.
Variety and moderation may be the key words to guide you, but it's important to know just what type of foods you should eat for a healthy diet. And for that, we'll visit the pyramid. And I'm not talking about the one in Egypt.
Peel me a grape. One of Cleopatra's favorite commands may have been inspired as she looked out her palace window. The shape of the Egyptian pyramids gives us a general guide on how to structure our diet to be healthy and minimize our risk of cancer and heart disease.
The food pyramid consists of 6 food groupings.
At the base, you'll find breads, cereals, rice, and pastas.
Each day you should have about 6 to 11 servings from this category.
Now, when I talk about servings, this is what I mean. 1 serving is 1 slice of bread or a half cup of cooked rice or pasta.
Now, these grapes were Cleopatra's favorite, and all of us should try to eat 2 to 4 servings of fruit every day. 3 to 5 servings from the vegetable group are recommended. And from the milk, yogurt, and cheese category, you should try to have 2 to 3 low-fat servings.
To complete your daily meal requirements, include 2 or 3 servings of lean meat, skinless poultry, fish, dry beans, or eggs. As a rough guide, a 3-ounce serving of meat is about the same size as an average woman's hand. These foods are a good source of protein, B vitamins, iron, and zinc, and each type provides benefits to us in a different way. Variety is the key. At the tip of the pyramid, you'll find fats, oils, and sweets. Use these very sparingly.
They may contain a lot of calories and may not contribute substantially to the nutrients needed in a healthy diet designed to minimize our cancer risk.
Unfortunately, Americans today eat too many fats, oils, and sweets and not enough from the other food groups. That creates an unstable pyramid and an unreliable diet. If you want to improve your diet, think about the proportions of the pyramid and plan your diet accordingly. Try to eat more from the foods near the base of the pyramid and less from the tip.
They're in there, they're hiding, and they could increase your risk of cancers. Hidden fats. How do you find them? How do you avoid them? Next on Today's Health.
Every day it seems like there's a new diet and exercise program designed for everything from slimming down to pumping up. We wanted to highlight a healthy lifelong diet for you that may reduce the risk of cancer, so we went to some experts for their advice.
There's a big discrepancy between what people think they eat and what they actually eat.
You know, many people think their diet closely reflects the recommendations of the food guide pyramid. But if you were to chart their actual habits, their pyramids would be very top-heavy with fats, oils, and sweet foods.
Women generally consume less food than men within each food group, except for the fruit group. Men are pretty good at estimating their meats and vegetables, but both men and women greatly underestimate the number of servings they think that they eat from the bread group and from fats, oils, and sweets. If you're concerned about your diet-related cancer risk, a question frequently asked is, what about meat? Isn't that where a lot of fat comes from?
Well, actually, the only group consumed in appropriate amounts is the meat group. All other groups, with the exception of the tip of the pyramid, are underconsumed. Be sure to check your meat department for nutrition labeling information. That will help guide you in meeting the recommended 30% or less calories from fat. Lean meats can be a part of a healthy diet and serve as a good source of valuable nutrients. They also add a variety of flavors and texture to the diet. If you want to lower your risk of cancer, I'd recommend increasing foods from the fruit, vegetable, and bread groups, and avoid fried foods and added high-fat sauces and dressings. I don't tell people they should eliminate lean meat or dairy products. Rather, I say they should choose lean cuts of meat and less fatty foods, and eat more grains, cereals, breads, fruits, and vegetables.
Many Americans simply don't know proper serving sizes, and they don't recognize the sources of hidden fat.
You might find it hard to believe, but a hamburger patty made with lean ground meat can have less fat than a tuna salad made with real mayonnaise.
There's a lot of confusing nutrition information out there. Nearly 35% of respondents in the Eating in America Today survey stated that trying to eat healthy is simply too complicated and confusing.
The key to a healthy diet is simple. All foods in moderation can be a part of it. Just eat a good variety and try to keep your consumption within the guidelines of the food guide pyramid.
Okay, we've identified one major culprit, fat. To reduce our risk of cancers, we want to cut our fat calories down to about 30% or less of our total calorie intake. So now, how do we find the fat, and where does it hide? Let's go hunting.
Let's take the first step. Before you can reduce fat in your diet, you have to know how to recognize it. Well, every day we're faced with a multitude of meal options, but do we really know what we're eating?
That's why it's important to know how to read and understand the food labels required on packaged food products and other information available in the store. They give us nutrition information and identify how many of the calories come from fat as well as other nutrients. The labeling regulations also provide uniform definitions for nutrient claims such as fat-free, low-fat, light, and lean. Today, low-fat means that the food contains 3 grams or less of fat per serving. Remember, our goal is to keep calories from fat down to 30% or less of the total calories we consume. That means a person eating a 2,000-calorie diet should have no more than 67 grams of fat, because each gram of fat equals 9 calories. Those less active or trying to lose weight may choose to eat about 55 grams of fat per day. Almost all food groups can contribute some fat to your diet, so read the labels and add it up, because some foods you may not expect can add what's known as hidden fats. The secret to trimming your fat intake is to not completely cut out any one group of foods. And there's nothing wrong with a little indulgence, as long as we do it in moderation. In a healthy diet, every food group in the pyramid is important in its recommended proportions, and within each group, selecting a variety of different items helps keep our meals in balance.
A proper diet can help us feel better, look better, and work and play better while we reduce the risk of several diseases, including some cancers. And with just a little effort, every time we sit down for a meal, we may be helping ourselves to longer, healthier lives and some delicious food.
Some things are unavoidable, and there's no one step you can take to completely eliminate your risk of getting cancer. There are ways, though, to reduce your risk factors, and properly managing your diet is one of them. A healthy diet consists of a variety of foods from all of the food groups. Watch those fats and let moderation be your guide. I hope that this show gave you some new insight into the issues that may affect your health or that of someone you love. Join us again next time as we get right to the heart of matters concerning your life on Today's Health.
This has been a presentation of 5 Star Productions USA, which is solely responsible for its editorial content.